Hello, friends. This is Professor MCal again. It's been a while. Thanks for tuning into this one. We're slowly rebuilding the channel. As many of you know, it was taken down about 8 months ago. So we've been trying to reestablish it ever since. It's been a process. It's been a little slow, but hopefully we're going to keep the material coming a little bit more quickly. Just want to give a shout out to my esteemed colleague, Master Mook, Mookie's Tarot Zone. Check him out on YouTube. You'll dig it. We've got some new subscribers lately. I appreciate that. Thank you for checking out the page. It's just terrific. Thank you very much. Today we're going to do a presentation on eugenics in the 19th and 20th century. It's a topic that I've studied quite a bit. We're going to tie this into World War II as well, because that is the inevitable conclusion of this movement, which began in the 19th century, middle 1800s in the United States, eventually made its way over to Europe and culminated in many of the crimes of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Okay, so if you do not know, eugenics was the study of how humankind can be improved by selective breeding. This was prevalent in the middle century in the United States and coincided with a rise in the study of it in Europe. In addition, I should mention that in Latin America, there was also a hefty eugenics movement around the same era. Argentina, Colombia, Brazil as well. A lot of this comes out of colonialism. It's got its roots in slavery in the 19th century as well. Slavery was likely over in the United States by the time this really gained steam. But around Latin America, the idea of eugenics stuck around for quite a while. In Europe, the culmination of these practices would be seen in the development of the Nazi regime in Germany in the middle 20th century. It is very interesting to note that eugenics were not invented by the National Socialists. They were adopted very much from ideas that were developed in the United States. We're going to talk a little bit about the genesis of eugenics as well in the ancient world. This is not new. Next slide. All right, so the concept and practice is not new. One of the best examples of this is ancient Sparta. Not the only example, but I would say one of the best examples. The Spartans and Athenians in Greece were fierce rivals for a time. If you know anything about the Peloponnesian War, this was a war between Athens and Sparta that lasted for 30 or 40 years or something like that. It was a very long period of time. Sparta was known for only selecting the best babies from their stock of people. This is the way they looked at it. I'm not offering an opinion about this stuff at all. All I want to do is really just put out the facts and tell you what I know. It can be a difficult subject, I suppose. I mean, not really for me, but I can understand how some other people might be, I don't know, a little queasy talking about this stuff. I don't know. The Spartans were very much into this because in the ancient world, fertility was everything. If you were not fertile, you would die off. Your children would die off quickly, et cetera, and so forth. And I've talked about this quite a bit in my ISIS video, the Baal video. We've touched on fertility in the ancient world quite a bit on this channel. The Spartan babies, when they were born, they were washed in wine to see how the baby would react. Supposedly, they thought that this would strengthen the immune system, strengthen the physical prowess of the child, etc. They would be checked for strange birthmarks or any kind of defects, anything that could lead them to believe that the child would grow up and be not strong or infertile or not able basically to serve in the military in Sparta. Babies that did not pass this test were left usually to die of exposure to the elements. And again, this kind of practice was not, it sounds crazy to us now, but back then it was kind of born out of necessity, and this was not as wild, as it would be now. Okay, so this is a photograph of a eugenics building. I believe this is a photograph from Missouri in the 19th century. Now, I could be wrong about that. If somebody wants to do some research and, verify this photograph, I'm pretty certain that this is a photograph from Missouri, but I don't want to say 100%. So, in the Midwest, a lot of this stuff was very prevalent. Not just the Midwest, the Northeast had a eugenics movement as well. But it seems that in the Midwest, there were family centers and eugenics centers where, you could go and learn about things like racial hygiene, genetic hygiene, et cetera, and so forth. This was very much prevalent in the Midwest and was very much an American phenomenon. And this would be later adopted by Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime and taken to extremes, without a doubt. Families in the South and the Southwest, I got a little typo there, sorry, were eligible to receive grants and other personal citations for the most fit family and other racial purity in the United States. The most fit family contest was a thing in the middle of the country. Very interesting stuff. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about a man. We're going to talk about what's known as the burned over district, and we're going to talk about a man called John Humphrey Noyes, who was a very influential figure in the history of eugenics in the United States. I mean, really one of the people that really kicked it off and did a lot for the movement. This gentleman, John Humphrey Noyes, is actually the great, that's 4 times great-grandfather of my esteemed colleague and engineer who works on these videos with me. I have some other friends, best friends, that are also descendant of John Humphrey Noyes in the area that we're from, the Northeast. The burned over district is an area in the Northeast encompassing New York State, Pennsylvania, parts of Connecticut. There was a scholar at Syracuse University named Michael Barkun. I believe he was at Syracuse. I believe somebody you could verify that for me if you get some time. I believe he was at SU. I believe Michael Barkun wrote a book about it, the burned over district. It's quite good. I read it in graduate school, and I still own it now. I suggest reading that if you want to learn more about this district and the people that were from it. The area that I'm speaking of was known for religious communes, particularly the Oneida community, which is where John Humphrey Noyes comes out of, the Mormons, the Quakers, etc. These were homogeneous communities. Homo means one, and genus is, genes, so single gene, homogeneous and based on religious faith. It's important to note that the early United States really was comprised of mostly religious communes or kind of communal living type situations. Not everybody, not everywhere, but in the Northeast, where it is very, very cold, this was highly prevalent. The reasons for this are practical. If you live near your family, if you live near your friends, if you live near people that are like-minded or share the same faith, you have a better chance at survival. That's the bottom line. We're talking about a world that's still lit by candlelight. There's no lights. There's no cars yet. I mean, there's no real infrastructure as we know it today. I mean, like today we're so privileged and blessed to be able to, drive from New York City to Sacramento, California, straight through. And there's, no major roadblocks. There's no major issues. You don't have to worry about Indian attacks. You don't have to worry about getting robbed by bandits, cowboys, any of this kind of stuff. I mean, maybe some, but I mean, certainly not. It's certainly not what it would have been like back then. You also would have been exposed to bears, wolves, coyotes, especially at night. So to band together and live in groups and live based on religious faith was something that worked for people, kept you alive longer, kept you happier, gave you purpose, etc., and so forth. And as I said, the Mormons, Quakers, the Oneida community, these are faiths that are still around today. These are people that are still around today. I would also like to mention that a very good example of the original settlers in the United States, maybe not entirely, but I think a good example, a good measure of what early settlers would have been like are the Amish. The Amish people that we still have today in Pennsylvania, New York State. I'm sure that there's other areas in the country that have their own, version of what we know as the Amish. These are individuals that are very much living like people would have lived back then. There's quite a few of these communities still now in what we consider the burned over district. The Rust Belt in the United States has a lot of these. So it's very interesting to note that communal living combined with ideas about eugenics and selective breeding bore some very very interesting people and theories that went on really to play out in the world and really change the history of the world for better or for worse. One of the very very important people is John Humphrey Noyes. This is a picture of him. John Humphrey Noyes was, I believe he was born in the United States. Now, this is the great grandfather of my esteemed colleague, Master Mook. And I did some research a few years ago about his family tree, family lineage, and it turns out that his people are from the Nordic countries. It's Finland, Norway, Sweden. They then made their way into France, and then from France into England. And there was an individual in the army of William the Conqueror, a knight in the army of William the Conqueror, who was also a relative of my friend. From there, the Noyes family or Noyes bloodline, Noyes bloodline, developed further in England and then eventually came to the United States, where John Humphrey Noyes was born and eventually set up the Oneida community. The Oneida community was quite a thing. I think at its height there was about 300 people living there. And some people have mentioned, I don't know if this is true or not, but some people have mentioned that he was a person that coined the term free love. It was very much kind of a progenitor of some of these sexual ideas, things that developed into the 1960s in the United States. John Humphrey Noyes was very influential in the early history of eugenics. I think it would be hard to talk about eugenics, without him. I don't think you'd be able to do it. And I do know the descendants of John Humphrey Noyes very well. Very good friends of mine, my best friends. And I can tell you that some of these gentlemen are a spitting image of what you see here. Okay, we're going to move on to sterilization in the United States, which was quite a thing in the 19th century, early 20th century as well. It's a little known fact, and it is a fact that the United States was once the world leader in sterilizations in the eugenics movement. 300,000 people were sterilized nationwide. Most of these were in California. So you can look into that or think about how why California, et cetera, and so forth. I think that some of the politics and policies of the state of California really do reflect this, kind of lineage. But this is, not where I'm going to go into that. Maybe another day I will. California did lead the country in sterilization. As I said, and 300,000 people or more were sterilized nationwide. This is people with genetic defects, alcoholism, et cetera, and so forth. Eventually, this was adopted by the National Socialists in Germany and taken to an extreme. As a matter of fact, Adolf Hitler was an admirer of the movement in the United States and modeled Nazi racial policies after the eugenics movement in the United States, obviously putting in his own, little twist there, okay? Okay, so the Nazis were socialists. I think a lot of people misunderstand that today, and I don't think that that's something that is talked about enough because, the Nazis are they're so hated in the United States, but there's so many people that have been clamoring for socialism for so long, but many of these people don't understand that the Nazi regime was Socialist. The NSDAP is the National Socialist German Workers' Party. They believed heavily in social engineering. They believed heavily in theories about biology, race, society. These programs in Germany were heavily influenced by the U.S. This was the ultimate conclusion to the eugenics movement. It was initially a reactionary ideology, which maybe I'll discuss more in another video. But it was clearly one of the most destructive, ideas ever hatched anywhere in the world. It was extremely destructive. I mean, these ideas resulted in many, many tens of millions of deaths. This movement was the end of the eugenics era as we know it. As I said, South America also had its own eugenics movement. I got another little typo there. Sorry about that, guys. This was reinforced after the war by the Nazis that relocated there. And some of you may know this already, that there was a mass exodus from Germany to Argentina, where many of the top Nazis went to hide after the war and get away from the Nuremberg trials, that were happening in Germany. One of the most notable people that escaped to Argentina was Dr. Joseph Mengele. He's also known as the Angel of Death. Not a nice man. Joseph Mengele, I mean, I could do an entire presentation just on Joseph Mengele. I mean, he was really very, very smart individual, but evil, no doubt. I think Joseph Mengele had a PhD in philosophy, and he also had a medical degree as well. He was the primary doctor, or one of the top guys at Auschwitz, and he literally, he would send, he would give lollipops to kids in the morning and send them to a gas chamber at night. I mean, the guy was just a wicked guy. He experimented on twins. He was especially interested in twins that had heterochromia, two different colored eyes, et cetera, and so forth. He would exchange body parts between twins and see if the one twin could feel something and poke and prod the other one, and all this kind of stuff. He eventually escaped to Argentina, where he continued to perform illegal abortions late into his life, and then eventually died of natural causes. He was never brought to justice for many of the horrific crimes that he committed. Incidentally, there are now still in Argentina descendants of the Nazis that moved there. There are German communities in Argentina. And I'm not saying that all of them are, super into or proud of their heritage. I mean, I really don't know. But there is some evidence to support that there are some that do exist down there that are proud of their National Socialist heritage and still fly that flag today. There's one example right here. This is a pretty recent photo from a helicopter or a drone of a mansion, a mansion in Argentina. And, my guess is that this mansion or other ones like it were built off of the stolen goods, and they were basically built out of the money that was looted or made from the death camps in Nazi Germany. As you can see there in the swimming pool, there's a pretty clear-cut, image of a swastika there. So these individuals do still exist in Argentina today. And the last vestige of the eugenics movement probably remains there. Will it remain there? I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. I hope you enjoyed this presentation today. I enjoyed giving it. Please leave me a like, subscribe, all that stuff. Leave me a comment. I really like responding to people's comments. I enjoy that very much. We've had some great conversation on here recently. I want to keep that up. Also, give me some feedback on how you think I'm doing, what you like about the videos, what I could do better, things like that. If you have a suggestion on something that you would like to see, I'll definitely take that under consideration as well. I'd like to provide content that people really get something out of. I hope that this one found you well, and God bless. Take care. I'll catch you next time.